Okay, so here is a game. Road to 2100 ratings because currently, if you can see, my rating is 2097. So versus Francesco 1 of Albania 2088. I'll be playing white. Yeah, and the time is 3 minutes. So let's start the game. Okay. So I started the game with d4. He replied e6, c4, and then d5. Okay, knight c3, c6. So clearly you can see this is a queen's gambit opening, but declined variation. Yes. So I'm putting my pawn to a3, stopping the bishop going to b4. Okay, so the dark squared bishop to b4. So he replied with bishop d6, controlling both diagonals, block diagonals in the center. And now for e4. So basically e4 is just to control the center, having to dominate with a space. He replied with f6. I'm not sure with that one. Okay, maybe he's afraid that I might continue to move my pawn going to e5. So attacking the dark squared bishop, c5. Okay, going to bishop c7. And now I support my center e4 pawn with f3. He replied with knight e7, supporting the center and preparing to castle. Yeah, okay. Bishop e3. So opening space up and then securing the center. He castled. Bishop d3. Yeah. So facing the king's side later on, preparing for attack. He's trying to break my pawn structure with the reply b6. So I support my c5 pawn by moving b4. a5, yeah, he's continuing to break my pawn structure. Now, the knight from g going to e2, preparing to castle, and then at the same time supporting the center pawn structure that I am trying to build. Oh, b5. He's ignoring the capture. Castle is going to the knight d7. Okay, queen to c2 and preparing for attack to h7 after my capture from e4 takes d5. Yeah, so let's see what is his counter or defense with that one. Okay, g6. Good response though. Okay, so adding pressure to the g6 pawn with the knight f4, at the same time attacking the e6 pawn, so I can fork the queen, rook, and the bishop. So he moved knight to b8 in order to defend the e6 pawn. g4, adding a lot of pressure to the king side. This is an aggressive move from me. Okay. Wow. He replied, securing the g6 pawn by supporting an additional supporter, which by moving king g7, adding more pressure. h4. I think his knight will move to uh, g8 after moving the rook to e8. Okay, so I continue to attack by moving to h5. Okay, wow, so he's breaking the pawn structure. He's also aggressive. So after f5, I close the diagonal which the bishop controlled, the dark squared bishop controls, by moving to e5. Okay, so he moved to rook h8, thinking that after capturing the pawn from h5, takes g6 pawn, and he will now have control of the diagonal. I mean, the controlling the open file, I mean the h file. So yeah, I'll take that one. H takes g6. He also takes the pawn. H takes g6. Yeah, so I'll go back, opening the diagonal of the bishop. Knight g2. Okay, since the attack from e6 pawn is relieved, he now goes back to knight d7. Bishop g5, pinning the knight. Okay, so to avoid the pin, he now moves to queen e8. So g takes f5. Knight takes f5. Bishop takes f5. G takes f5. Okay, so f4 just to support the dark squared bishop. Wow, so he's preparing to attack and threatening me with a mate by moving queen h5. Knight e2, adding support here. So if ever he will attack me by checking at h2, I can still run going to f2. Oh, I don't know why he moves his king to f7. Knight g3, attacking the queen, and it also serves a cover for my king if I go to f2. So he went to queen h3. Now, as I've said earlier, king f2. Oh, retreat. So he might be trapped by moving the rook to h1. So he went to queen h7. So I responded with rook h1, threatening the queen. So he went back with queen g8. I went for the capture. Rook takes h8. Queen takes h8. Rook h1 again, threatening the queen. So he went to queen g8. So I responded by moving my rook to h6. So his response is a takes b4. So same, a takes b4. Okay, so rook a4, preparing to capture my b4 pawn. So I sacrifice in order to gain an attack. Knight takes f5, e takes f5, queen takes f5 check, king e8. Okay, so rook e6 check. So he got no choice, but his queen need to capture the rook, or else he will be checkmated. So queen takes e6, queen takes e6 check, and then this is the last move because he resigned. And from 2097, my ratings went up to 2100. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, guys.